Video essays are easy. There it is. There's the core of the video. You can click off now. A lot of people do that in the first 30 seconds. TikTok attention span, baby. I don't say this to be spiteful or judgmental, but I say this because in 2024, I have an immense amount of sympathy for actual creatives. People trying to make something new from the ground up, something that requires an attention span and patience from the viewer, which is an increasingly short supply. It feels like a truly unfair time to be a creative. There's more people talking about things other people have made than there are people actually making things. God forbid you make one slightly mid-movie or game, because some white guy will have whipped up an 8-hour video essay on its shortcomings within 2 weeks, and that will make infinitely more money and get infinitely more attention than your creation ever will. And sure, that creation was flawed and it had its shortcomings, but making it was infinitely more impressive than just picking it apart on YouTube. Here's a question: how many new movies have you watched in the past year? How many new video games have you played? How many new albums have you listened to? In comparison, how many video essays do you think you've watched? Or consumed is the word we use a lot now. I'm old enough to remember when media consumption was hardly even a concept people talked about, because you didn't have to consciously think about what you did or didn't watch. There wasn't such a never-ending stream of choices and content out there that you weren't paralysed over what to and what not to engage with. You just watched the thing you like and felt satisfied about being done with it. In 2005, American psychologist Barry Schwartz did this TED Talk on the paradox of choice that has aged like a fine wine. In it, he talks about the experience of going into a clothes shop to buy some new jeans and being completely blindsided by how many new choices they had. He told the guy his size and was asked if he wanted slim fit, relaxed fit, easy fit, button fly or zipper fly, boot cut or tapered, and so on. And Schwartz says he spent hours trying on new jeans, feeling increasingly paralysed by the amount of choice. Eventually, he walked out with a pair of jeans he describes as amazing, says they were some of the best he'd ever had, and he still wasn't satisfied because he couldn't stop thinking about all the other choices. How many of them would have been better? As he says, with that much choice, one of them should have been perfect, and the ones he got were good, but they weren't perfect. That is the paradox of choice. So I want to get back to my question about new movies, new video games, new albums. Why do I emphasize the new part? Because I want you to think about how many new things you've engaged with in the age of the video essay. Since you could just absorb the plots and beats or general consensus of these things in much less time than it takes to actually experience them yourself. If you're an enthusiast in one of these things, then sure, your answer is probably that you've engaged with more of these things than video essays about them, but for a lot of you, hell, even for most of you, I'd be willing to bet that it's the other way around, because the paradox of choice keeps you paralysed. Sure, you could spend 80 hours playing the new Yakuza game, or you could just fire up some 90-minute YouTube video where a guy tells you what it's like and everything that happens in it. And sure, you miss out on all the intricacies and details, all the quiet little moments in between, all the important emotions you go through by engaging with someone else's work, but now you're up to speed. You're not in the dark anymore, you can be part of the conversation. You can engage in discourse. My favourite. And I'm not saying that this is always a bad choice. It is often completely valid to skip a piece of media and just get the Cliff Notes version. What, you think I'm going to do the mental gymnastics required to understand the lore of the crazy screamy guy I just killed in Dark Souls 3? Fuck no. I'm going to let Vati Vidya explain that shit to me. He's got a lovely voice. But we have gotten far too comfortable shitting on actual creatives and lionising the people who don't actually make anything, who instead just sit there and criticise their work. Criticism is valid and important. It's also easy. Video essays are easy. Source? Me. I have had quite a strange career trajectory in that I got my creative writing degree at university and then went straight into YouTube. To explain my reasoning for this in full would be to make my own 40-minute Vati Vidya style lore video on my own real life, which I'm not going to do. I'd instead suggest you work your way through my entire 5-year backlog of videos and piece together my personal history from those. But when I was going through academia, and in fact when I first made the decision to pursue this degree, I heard the same thing over and over again, that my creative writing degree would be useless in getting me a job. And let me tell you, my creative writing degree has felt far more useless on YouTube than anywhere else. every time I've tried to get creative, actually spent a week or longer on the writing process, the video has underperformed. And whenever I do a video essay or any video just very overtly sharing an opinion, it actually helps pay my bills. There are obviously video essayists who are very impressive in what they do, whose research and editing and presentation is clearly a cut above the rest, who actually have something to say and who display some level of creativity and, I don't know, skills. And some I assume are good people. But mostly, all we do on YouTube right now is react to things other people have made, both in the literal sense and in the figurative sense. Let's remember what a video essay is. It's just an opinion. It's just you stating your case on something. We put on pedestals people who literally just share their opinions on the internet, often those opinions deriding the work of those who are far more creative and skilled than them. Just a quick aside here, obviously video essay is a pretty nebulous term. There are many that are just stories about or deep dives into history or real events. These ones require a lot of strenuous research. I wouldn't exactly call them creative, but they don't need to be. They're generally pretty impressive and they ask quite a lot of the creator when they're not plagiarized. I'm not really talking about these kinds of videos. I'm talking about what Joker 2 gets wrong about rooftops. You know the ones. I'm not saying we shouldn't criticize people's art just because they are art, because some of it is bad art and criticism makes things better. I'm saying we are giving these people so much attention and so much credit that media criticism is starting to feel like an industry unto itself, more of an industry than media. If you're making something new from the ground up, you can't really make mistakes anymore. You're under intense scrutiny from an ocean of people who couldn't make something original or inspired if they shit out Lego. And while we're on the term essay, by the way, I speak as someone who went through the university system in a literary degree when I say that an essay is not just something you typically fart out every week. It's something that whole modules and terms build up to, that you spend weeks immersing yourself in research and texts to prepare yourself for. HBomber guy, one of the video essayists who I think is actually smart and interesting and has things to say, recently put out a video, I'm sure you've seen it, where he exposes plagiarists. Notice how a lot of these plagiarists, Illuminati and the like, were the weekly video essay types. That's because a weekly video essay is bullshit. You write an essay when you have something to say. You don't actively look for or make up something to say to write an essay. So I'll just say it. YouTubers who make weekly video essays, I suspect that you are all frauds. If you haven't ripped off a bunch of journalists and superior writers whose work will never get the attention and acclaim you leech off them, you are almost definitely full of shit in at least 5 of your videos. Also, if you leave in footage of you pouring yourself a cup of tea or coffee and drinking it during the video, I also hate you. That one's for petty reasons. I just think you need to get over yourself. You're not Socrates, you've just explained the history of that so Raven for 8 hours. Of course, I am aware of the irony here. I have made video essay style content for years, despite the fact that I hate referring to myself as a video essayist because I feel like the format has become so oversaturated and I'm kind of petty towards the really bad ones. It is because of this that I think I can pretty authoritatively say that they are comparatively easy. You just have an opinion and you make a video out of it. Most of the time that involves either using tons of footage from the thing you're talking about, which you can just drag and drop into your video editing software, or just being on camera yourself, which is also easy, especially if you're pretty, which I'll be honest, most of us are. So if I dislike this quote-unquote format so much, why have I used it so often? Well, because it's the only thing any of you motherfuckers will watch. Now I get an excuse to plug something really quick. In case you missed it, myself and a bunch of other hard drive alumni who left late last year launched our own new thing, Palette Swap. We've got a site that's really cool and good, we've got socials that are really cool and good, and of course we have a YouTube channel that we're trying to raise from the ground up, which I am running, therefore cool and good. It's where all my videos are going to be now. This one on the channel is a one-off because I don't really think it fit on the Palette Swap channel. Part of my strategy for getting us off the ground has been to use the video essay format. Of course I play with it and get creative and have churned out 2 big videos so far that I'm really proud of that you should go and watch and then subscribe to us, but this was, in my estimation, from my experience, our only chance to hit the algorithm. We are 50% a comedy and satire site, but any video solely based on comedy would not work or hit the algorithm, especially not any kind of long form thing. No matter how creative or inspired or well written a YouTube video, people will not watch unless they feel like they're actively getting something out of it. In most cases, that is an opinion, an analysis, again, a chance to get in on delicious, yummy, scrummy discourse. Laughs and quality writing don't really cut it anymore. If it's not about a thing I already know, I don't want to watch, because my time has become a commodity and I don't want to take the risk of not spending it wisely. If I'm watching something about something I already know other people have an interest in, perhaps myself included, then even if the content of the video is bad and the person isn't really making any salient points, at least I still get to be involved in the discussion. At least I get to be immersed in the world of a piece of media I already know about, that I feel comfortable in. I can just bathe in it, enshrouded in the warm glow, yes, of discourse. Even if it's bad, it's comfortable, and I know it. That's what we want to watch. Remember animators? Remember when animators used to do stuff on YouTube? You know, make animations? You know why they all quit, right? It's because they simply weren't being rewarded proportionately for their work. The time investment just was not worth it. Most animations were somewhere from 2 to 10 minutes, enough time to show off your abilities and flex creatively, but not so much time that the workload became completely impossible, even though that is still an insane amount of work. And in today's climate, animators stand basically no chance because YouTube wants you to be a short or it wants you to be 3 hours. The margins have stretched out to both extremes. With shorts, we can chase TikTok and the glory days of Vine, and with our watch time boner and pushing of 9-hour video essays, we can appeal to all the people who want to absorb movies and video games without actually watching or playing them. Now, I mentioned my own video essay exploits and how I too have given in to the format to appease the algorithm, because I want to say this, it's not the people's fault. This is not a video to say video essayists are lame or that you should hold anything against them, because I, despite my actual yearning to do more creative stuff on YouTube, have had to be one of them too. We all do. It's what works. It's what keeps us fed. The irony is going to continue here because I'm going to reference, you guessed it, a video essay I made a couple years back on my problems with YouTube as a creator. Addendum here, creator is an incredibly generous term for most people on YouTube. As I say in the video, most people on YouTube are not creating anything, they're just reacting to things made by other, more creative people. But I cited a statistic in this video that I think is very sobering and that I still think about a lot. It's that from the year 2000 to 2015, the average human attention span dropped from 12 seconds to 8 seconds. A full 4-second drop in 15 years is insane. And I shudder to think how it's changed in the age of TikTok, aggressive, bouncy, text-in-your-face editing, jump cuts, and instant gratification. Basically, everything I say in that video I feel is still relevant today. I think maybe even more relevant today, so I won't repeat myself. I think this drop in attention span is the root of a lot of things, and somewhat paradoxically, I actually think it explains our love of the 8-hour critique or breakdown of a piece of media we already know or want to know more about. It's not about the length. Hell, most of the time we just put it on in the background while we're doing something else. It's about not being alone with our thoughts, and it's about retreating to something we know, whether that is video games or music or movies as a whole, or a specific album or movie or video game. All across the world, in every creative industry, you're seeing the arts get more risk averse. We are doing the same as viewers. As everything is competing for our time, and as our time is being commodified, we are less willing to take risks with it. We do not want to take the risk of engaging with something new or different. All we do over and over again is retreat to what we know. So what I am not saying is that video essayists are to blame for the way social media has decimated our attention span, nor are they to blame for doing what works to pay the bills. I'm saying we seem to have forgotten that the creatives are the ones to be revered and looked up to, and video essayists are just people talking about their work on YouTube. We spend almost all our time criticising the works of others. Maybe people should criticise us more often. I think a lot about Enchanted Portals. It's this game made by literally 2 people who formed a studio together in Spain. This game, by all accounts, was not good, and as you can see from the footage, it is hugely derivative of Cuphead. Too derivative to ever stand out on its own, and likely speaks to a lack of creativity on the developer's part. It is definitely deserving of criticism. But as far as I can see, there doesn't seem to be anything particularly malicious about it. You know what there is something malicious about? The way people talked about it. I mean, look at some of these thumbnails. Some of these videos with hundreds of thousands, millions of views. Do we not maybe forget ourselves a bit and how damaging stuff like this is? You know, targeting big corporations and executives is one thing, but this is two people who made a game together in Spain. Is this helpful to them? Are we not forgetting ourselves? How do we think this makes them feel? Truly, I would love to see any of the people who made these videos make their own game with one other person, max. I think a lot about Insane in the Rain Music, an incredible jazz musician on YouTube who announced in 2022 that he was leaving it behind for a bevy of reasons. Now, he's since come back, kind of, for other reasons, and I don't want to speak for him, but there's a section in the original Departure video that really resonated with me.
Now, for a long time, I kind of felt guilty that, oh, I am the only one that has stumbled into, inadvertently profiting off of somebody else's content. And I'm a bad person for doing that. But the more that I looked around, the more I realized that this particular group of issues regarding copyright wasn't just unique to me. It's a problem with the entire creator ecosystem. Maybe it's not a problem, but it's a phenomenon that's existed in the entire creator ecosystem. YouTube is full of people profiting off somebody else's creation. For example, there are reaction YouTubers who just record themselves watching somebody else's material. Even people like Let's Players and Twitch streamers are playing a game that was created and sold by somebody else, and if they do it professionally, are generating their own profit off of it. Now, I'm not saying this is inherently wrong. There are Let's Players and Twitch streamers out there that are innovative and add their own, their own flavor to a game with their commentary, what they might do with it. And I think that's wonderful. For me, it just solidifies the notion that ownership of intellectual property on the internet is just so complicated. There are people that make $1 million livings off of making reaction videos, or what are essentially reaction videos, not adding that much of their own, and just reacting.
This is it. This is exactly it. It's not that it isn't possible to get creative with videos based on other IP. It's what Neil Cicierega did. It's what Mystery Guitar Man did. It's what I and tons of others have tried because it's the closest to creativity you can get on YouTube nowadays. But increasingly, it's feeling like the only genre on YouTube left in 5 years or so will be people dissecting things that already exist or ranking them. Do you remember Marble Hornets? Slender Man has basically become a mythological character in horror media because of Marble Hornets, a from-the-ground-up creation from a group of people who were not already famous beforehand and isn't based on anything else. Do you think something like that could happen today? No, it couldn't. We exist in the void that 10,000 professional fans on YouTube scream into every day. Everything has become discourse. We talked about Dragon's Dogma 2's microtransactions for 3 weeks. We somehow had a culture war over Sydney Sweeney's boobs. If you type in Super Mario 64 is bad actually into YouTube, I bet you get tons of results. Ha! Look, there you go, look at all that. There's a YouTube video for every opinion in the world right now, and I for one think we all need to learn on occasion to just shut the fuck up. I write this final line of this video script at 3:30 PM on Friday, March 29th, 2024. 3 hours prior, at 12:26, I wrote this tweet. That was when I got the idea for this video. It took me 3 hours to write this script, and the video has only gone up so long after the fact because I had another one to finish for Palette Swap first. I have written and made countless videos more creatively involved and fulfilling and much more challenging over the years of this channel, admittedly many of them towing the video essay line because that's just kind of what you have to do, but many of them also not. And when they're not just why I like this thing, or why insert thing here is good, or why insert thing here is bad, I'd say they average about 4,000 or 5,000 views. This isn't sour grapes or anything, I've long made my peace with this, I'm just making a point. Creativity doesn't do numbers, criticising other people's work does. Irony. It sure is something, huh? I truly do not mean to disrespect or insult anyone, but there is so much hero worship of the people who are just a gateway into things you already love, which in turn are made by people who get scrutinized and analyzed at every angle to an insane degree. There are so many parasocial relationships being formed, unhealthy creator discords popping up, so much merchandise being sold based on someone else's IP just because it's a thing a YouTuber talks about. I'm no simp for corporations, but does that not feel a bit weird? There is still an artist at the center of that creation. I guess what I'm saying is we are just people on the internet talking about things. More so than ever in 2024, we are just that, nothing more. This place used to breed real creatives all the time. Now, it's more of a forum. Watch our stuff, enjoy it, but save your immense respect and adoration because there are others far more deserving of it out there.